Who's watching? Hey everyone, and welcome. I'm so excited to be here today. I'm chatting with Eva Wintersberger of Tree Hut Village, and we're here for Women Will Change the World TV. Now, if you're tuning in today, I would love to hear from you in the comments. So please jump in the comments, say hi to Eva and I, and let us know where you're watching from. I know we have people who are watching this show from all around the world. So whether you're in Melbourne, like Eva and I are, or in far north Queensland, or watching us in WA, or in the US, or the UK, or wherever you are, let us know that you're here. We would love to see you and hear from you. And if you're watching on the replay as well, let us know too. And of course, as we're going, as I'm chatting with Eva today, if you have questions for her, if you have comments, you just want to tell her how awesome and amazing she is, we would love to hear that too. We love hearing from you and getting you involved as well. So I would now like to introduce Eva. Hi, Eva. How are you?
Yeah, very good. Thank you. So nice to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. It's our pleasure to have you here. And I'd love to begin by getting you to tell us a bit about yourself and a bit about Tree Hut Village and what it is.
Sure. So I'm, as you can tell, not from Australia. I'm actually from Austria, and so very similar, but no kangaroos. So, and yeah, there's even T-shirts. But anyway, so I have a 2.5-year-old son, and I live in Melbourne now, and my husband who's a Kiwi. So I started Tree Hut Village, which is a parent-to-parent baby equipment hire platform. When I had a baby, and then I went to Hamilton Island with my husband and my 4-month-old son. And I thought, well, I really don't want to take my pram on the plane. I heard that they get damaged in by baggage handling and so on, and also I don't want to lug it around. I'm not a big fan of check-in luggage. So yeah, well, those times are gone anyway, but at least I don't have to take like so much. And I hired locally from a parent up in Airlie, and they just came to the ferry. They just dropped off their pram. It actually was a granddad who just had stuff at home the whole time. And it was so lovely. It was just so nice to, give them $20 or $30 and just wheel it around. They told us where it's great with kids. So I loved it. It was so great. So I thought this should be so much easier. And so I started developing Tree Hut Village, and we launched in February 2017.
Amazing. So it just came from such a simple idea. You were literally on a holiday, you needed to borrow something, and that's where it began.
Yeah, we had a little inkling.
Gone blank, Eva. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can see you and hear you. Yeah.
So we've just lost Eva for a minute there. I'll just get her to refresh her screen and come back to us. But wonderful to see you here today, Stacey. Stacey's here tuning in from Melbourne as well. Great to see you. I'd love to hear from who else is tuning in and watching us today as well. So I think we've got Eva back now. Not quite. Anyway, while we wait for her, I'd love to remind you that the Ozmompreneur Awards are open for nominations at the moment. And I've put the link in the comments below. So if you would like to nominate yourself and your business for the award, who you would love to invite to be a nominee, that would be great as well.
Right. I think I'm back.
So I think we have Eva back.
Yeah.
She's here.
So I think.
Hello.
Yeah.
So yes. Yeah, it was such a simple problem, but you found a solution to it. And really there was nowhere else where you could just borrow from other people. Is that where it all began?
Yeah, and also the idea was a bit earlier when my brother came down with his niece, and I just thought, well, I live sort of in the middle of nowhere, sort of in the suburbs, and there was no baby hire place around there. And I thought, well, I know that there's mums. It's just a bit weird if I'm not a mum to go over and say, hey, can I have your pram for my niece? It's a bit strange. So I thought, okay, well, and I didn't think much of it because, you know, if you're not a parent, you don't feel the need all the time. I just thought, you know, we'll make do. You don't understand it as much yet. And then, yeah, we just sort of thought, well, why don't my background is also in processes and so on. So I thought, well, let me just do a process, you know, and see how it and what is important to me. And maybe that's also important to other people. And before we launched, I really wanted to make sure it was a no-go decision to make sure that all of our transactions are insured, and that it's easy and online, and we have payment integration and all that sort of stuff. It was really important good experience, and then build on that. So I'm really glad. I feel like we've achieved that, and now we're just building bit by bit on that. So it's really quite a nice way of doing it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I know it hasn't all been smooth sailing for you, and that there has been challenges along the way. Would you like to tell us a bit about some of the challenges you've faced and also how you've overcome those challenges?
I think the biggest challenge when you start, just go right back to the beginning. The biggest challenge I found is super hard because you have no money and you need to do something, right? So you have to do your designs, and I didn't even know that you had designs separate from development. And that's how little I knew about on the online world. And so I felt like, how do I get this happening without spending so much? And a lesson that I learned is that I should have just, you know, went with a very experienced person, explore the options of who the best supplier is, and not just go with the cheapest option, because ultimately I paid a lot by things that didn't work quite as well. So I think that's the biggest thing I would say. So if you just save and then pay for quality, I think that's what I would recommend, rather than launching into it and then investing 5-6 grand or whatever, and then say, well, actually, if I would have spent 6 grand with a good person in the beginning, it would have been better. So, and then just finding the right people to work with, I think, is something that is very hard, but it's worth the wait. For my development team, the lead architect, I waited 9 months for. I waited 9 months until she had time. So, and she's a Kiwi, and I love that it's been developed here in New Zealand and Australia. So, you know, this partnership I think is really great, and I can go to her at any time and say, so this is what's happening. How do we do with this better, and so on. She's amazing. So I'm really glad that I've got this really strong team, and it was worth waiting for. So I'm really, really happy about that. And so the supplier thing is a big problem, I think. And obviously your next challenge is, how do you tell people about this? You know, so you think it's amazing, A, knows about it, and B, cares about it. Yeah, and that is a big challenge. And I still go through these ups and downs of enthusiastically winning some attention, like when we were in Mama or on Channel 9 last year. All of this is great, but then, you know, you sort of drop down again and you go, oh, and then you get a message from somebody, which is very kind. I loved it. But somebody said, how come I don't know about you? And I was like, I don't know. I'm really trying hard to tell everybody about this. But, you know, there's just a repeated messaging that needs to happen. I think that's a lesson that I learned as well. You need to communicate so much, and people just don't know because their attention is on something else. And there's so much that grabs their or tries to grab their attention as well, that it is, you just have to keep going and make sure that you communicate the things that are important to them, how you might help with that. And then maybe you get a bit more attention out there in the market. But I do feel like the repeated messaging and knowing what you're really good at and focusing on that is really important. So I've taken a very conscious standpoint not to be on Instagram at the moment. We are on Facebook and on Pinterest. And the reason for that is that we get 82,000 views on Pinterest every month. So we have only started at the beginning of the year. And we're now really, making a lot of track record. It's one of our biggest referrers. And likewise with Facebook. I like Facebook because maybe I'm too old for Instagram or something. I don't know. And then, so I do stories on Instagram, but that's about it. But I'd like to do more of it, but I just felt like we needed to focus in the beginning as to where all of our attention goes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's such an interesting strategy to be focusing on Pinterest.
Yeah, I think it paid off for us, but it was a bit of everybody's on Instagram. I thought, okay, let's just see how it goes.
Yeah, because so many people, so many businesses are just going straight to Instagram now and focusing so much energy and attention. And, the algorithm has changed at Instagram. You're not getting the reach that you were getting before. But I haven't heard of too many people who are focusing on Pinterest in the way you are. And do you think that's because your business is kind of travel related? And so when people are doing their travel planning, is that what's working? And are you putting up images that connect to blog posts with travel tips? Is that how it's working? Can you tell us a bit more about it?
Yeah, we've got an amazing amount of boards on Pinterest. So we pin all sorts of stuff like travel tips for the plane and destinations in Queensland or in Victoria, or travel tips for the car, or how to make money outside your home, essentially, or inside your home rather, like not having to go outside. And then so a few boards are about us, a few boards are about baby equipment and stuff like that, and a lot of boards are about what you do with it. So where do you go with it? Destinations that are really great for children. What are the tips that people go? The places to be, the restaurants to go to, the activities, the board toddler. Like, oh no. But so and all these sort of things. And I found that the reason that the thought process behind Pinterest, I've been actually interested in Pinterest for a long time. I tried it and I'm really not great at it. So I tried it in the beginning, thought I can't make this happen. Why can't I make this happen? And then I just learned a bit more about it. And essentially the reason for it was because when people are aware of Tree Hut Village or become aware of Tree Hut Village, that's not when they need it. They often have a delayed need. So you might think that, you need to travel maybe later something, but right now you don't. So what do you do with it? It escapes your mind very quickly that there was some company that did it. It was something with tree, I can't remember. But fantastic because they pin it. Remember it for the travel plans. And there was also something about Tokyo that I really liked, and Japan is great for kids. And I could take a baby and yo-yo there, and it's great because it's like
I've lost you, Eva.
Little and navigates where. Again. Am I back?
Yes, you are. Sorry.
Okay. So it was really fantastic, the Pinterest thing. And I must also say, I did try Instagram. I did. It's not for lack of trying. I'm just again, not great at it. So I just didn't get much from it. And so I thought, I feel like I'm trying too hard, and I feel like that's not me. I feel like maybe I'll get some help later on with Instagram, but right now it's just not what I do well. So I feel like I needed to focus on the things that I'm better at. And so I focused a lot on PR, and I focused a lot on Facebook and Pinterest as well. So those are the things that we've done. And the business probably also PR. We were very fortunate with getting from outlets like Kids Sport, Daily, the Influencer Startup Daily, so many. I think we've been featured in about 35 now, and we're doing the same this year. Yeah, a gorgeous magazine also in Melbourne. The free one that you see around cafes and so on. They're just amazing. And so all of the Mama Mag, and so if you see it around Melbourne, pick it up. It's free. So this.
We love Mama Bags.
Yeah.
Sarah's part of the community, and she's been to the awards, and she's done a feature on us before as well. Yeah, she's so supportive. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, she's great. I really enjoyed her hanging out with her and having a chat. And yeah, it was lovely. She featured us, and it's just so beautiful. She's a professional editor, right? So it's a very beautiful magazine. So yeah, so these sort of things, and so those are the main focus. And for me, the main thing, and I can't actually say this enough, and I'm not sure that it always comes across like this, but I really like all the users on. I like them so much, and when they talk to me and when they have a chat and when they tell me about their experience, it just makes me really happy. And even if they say, "Hey, this doesn't really work for me, can you fix it?" And it's like, I will fix that. And then I send them a message and said, "It's fixed now. Thanks for letting me know. It's fantastic." So I love that. So I love all feedback because many things that we're doing now actually help our users. They just said, "Hey, it would be really great if you could do this and that." And it's now happening. So, for example, you can now switch over a higher listing to a sale listing in like 2 seconds. And people said, "Yeah, I really want to be able to sell my stuff on there as well." I was like, "Yeah, it's fine. You don't have to click a button and now you can sell it. People can buy directly from you." And then I thought, from the sale point of view, what is it that I would be most worried about? And it's like, well, people just buying it and then, you never get the item possibly. So now we did it so that you have to release the money. So that means when you get the item, the item doesn't get, or the seller of the item doesn't get paid until you have it and until you said it was exactly how you said it was. So so that's quite big, but I haven't talked about that too much yet. So maybe I should do that and tell people about it. Yeah, so I think that's a lot of challenges, but I think that the being heard, your voice heard, I think that's a big thing. Mm-hmm.
I think it's fantastic that you're able to take on the feedback from the users, and then that you're able to make changes. And I think what you were talking about earlier, that you spent that time waiting to get the right people around you in your team, so waiting to get the right web developer who could help you create the functionality that you need. The rewards of that have paid off now down the track, that you're able to keep making changes and evolving things and making improvements based on user feedback. So that's really fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, really it's actually invaluable, because one thing I must also say, another praise. Her name's Sarah. Another praise for Sarah. She has built such a strong back end, and that was important for me. So in the beginning, our website was a bit ugly, but it was important for me to be a safe place, and she is fantastic at that. And so I said, that's what I want. I want that Tree Hut Village is really good and stable. So even when we were on Channel 9, our website didn't go down. Our website was scaling really well with all this absolute crazy increase in traffic in 4 minutes. So she's just doing a fantastic job. So it was great. Yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah. Now, if you're watching and if you've got questions for Eva, I would love you to post them in the comments below as well, because she's more than happy to take all of your questions. Now, Eva, you were the winner of our Digital Innovation Award. Is that correct? At last year's 2017 Osmopreneur Awards?
Yeah, that was so exciting. I love that. It was just the most inspiring event I've ever been to, and I've been to a sheer amount of conferences in my life. So honestly, I flew up to Sydney, and I just I didn't know what to expect, to be honest, so I just thought, I'll go. And I obviously didn't know that I won yet, but it was amazing. I went up there and I just felt so inspired by all these amazing women and the amazing businesses that they've started. And I just thought, having a family is just such a time for transformation. And look at all of these people nailing it. It's just amazing. And even the ones that, were just starting out on the journey like me, I was only, just new really. And it was just, I just wanted to say, I want to be there too, so I want to be inspiring too. And so I want to get there, and I want to do it, and I want to be able to tell others, that you can give that, even if you have a small child at home, or have 2 or 3, or I don't know, I don't have that many, but still intimidated by that. But I just found it really inspirational. And then winning was amazing. It's just, I just couldn't believe it. So I felt like it was such a good motivator for the coming year as well, to do it justice as well, to say, well, I've won digital innovation, I better do something proper now. So yeah, it was very inspiring. I love the event so much, and I'm really looking forward to this year. So I recommend it to everyone. It's really great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this year as well. It's going to be really fun. Really fun.
I really can't wait.
You've had quite a few achievements. So we've talked about your PR achievements already. You've won the Osmopreneur Award for Digital Innovation in 2017. But I know you've also already been approached by investors in your journey. So can you tell us a bit about your journey with investors, how they found you, surprising things that they said to you? Because I know that some of the challenges that they thought were there weren't actual challenges that you faced. So can you just tell us a bit about the whole investor journey? Because I'm always curious about that.
Yeah, so actually it's very interesting, because at the moment I still haven't gone down this path yet. So I haven't committed. I've got commitment issues anyway, so I feel like I sort of have to weigh it up for ages. And I'm surprised that I'm married in the first place. But the thing with investment was that people approached us, and then obviously your valuation is higher when you already make good money, or if you've reached your break even or something like that. And I felt like at the moment maybe it's still a bit early, because there's a lot of risk that investors take on. So if you think about it in investment terms, they take equity from you in line with how much risk they're taking on. So, because ultimately they could lose all of their money, or they could make a lot, and that's the gamble that they take. And I feel like, especially because of my business, the type of my business, it was also something where people possibly didn't always understand why it was useful. And I think that comes down to perhaps the type of person who's investing at the moment is maybe a man, possibly, in their 50s or 60s, perhaps, they've had a great career and done really well in their life. So now they want to give back to the community and invest in other businesses. And obviously, that helps them as well. But ultimately, I think that I had to explain a little bit why this is a useful experience, to be able to try an item before you buy it, or why you don't want to take the baby stuff. And I feel like that was a bit of a challenge in the beginning. But now that it's a little bit more mature, people are very interested in the amount of growth that we've had, and how we've doubled our bookings every month and so on. So I think that's really now interesting, because they can see this repeated growth. So I feel like when we're talking about investment, there's obviously a lot of different types of investment. There's family, that they call it the family and friends round. So where you procure money from other people and that And then there's obviously angel investment, and that's sort of high net worth individuals that give you money. And then there is the VCs, the venture capitalists. So I think one thing that is really important with investment is to understand what you get yourself into. You're giving away parts of your company, and that means you have a boss. And that's fine. I mean, you always have some sort of boss. So it's either your customer or your board. So I think that's really important to understand. But also, it is like a marriage, I think. So somebody told me once you get into investment, it's a little bit like you can't get rid of them. So that was a really good piece of advice. So like you have to take your time to sort of choose the right person that you can deal with for a long time, and you are comfortable with as well, that they share the same values and the same pathway. And I felt like that is important to me as well. I want it to be in line with our values. It needs to be about our users first and foremost. And growth is important and money is important, but it's a second. For me, it's all about the user first. It's all about our parents that use the platform first and how I can make it better for them. And I always feel like if you do the right thing by your customer, the growth will come. So, but I've worked in a business before where investment meant very quick growth and very sort of jumping and stuff like that. And I thought, well, if it's not my strategic plan to do that, I don't want to do that just to look like as if I'm growing quicker than maybe what's healthy for the business. And because growth ultimately can be very challenging as well. If you grow too quickly, it can really hurt you as well, and you lose. So I think that's the one thing that I wanted to think about. So I feel like I do, and we will be taking investment soon. And we're talking to a lot of people at the moment, but we are probably going to take our time with it to make sure that the right partner is involved with us, so we can grow together. But yeah, it's definitely a thing that I knew nothing about before I started Tree Hut Village, and it's still a learning curve, I'd say. But it's helpful to exactly know what you want. And this is just like a relationship. You just know what you want first, ideally, and then you sort of make a few concessions.
Yeah. Serena just said, so you have to date a lot before commitment.
Yeah, I like dating. Yes. I think so, yes. I mean, that's what it is. I feel like with investment as well, talk to people, get the opportunity to have a chat, see what these people are like, get their investment portfolio. What do they invest in? Are you in the same sort of niche or not? What can they bring to you as well? Because ultimately, an investor ideally helps you. They help you grow. So for me, ideally, it's somewhere that experience in the consumer market. How do you sort of penetrate the market? How do you really grow it? How do you step it up? And that they can help you with that. So it's not just money. It's about expertise and getting that sort of help. And I think if you know what you want from that, then you will have a better conversation. And you obviously have to lay out what it is that you wouldn't use the money for. You need to know exactly where you're going to go with it. So your roadmap, and you have to do projections as well, obviously, as to how quick you're going to grow. I mean, I think one thing that always scares me a bit is that people want 10 times the investment back, usually in 5 years. And I go, oh, okay, right, let me just gulp and get this going, right? Yeah. So, I mean, it's stepping it up. I think investment always steps it up in terms of pressure as well. I think it's important to that.
Yeah. So where were you finding these investors from? Like, did they find you? And how did they find you? Through PR, through social media? Like, what's the journey to find an investor if you are wanting to go down that road?
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. So, I mean, obviously, so when we first talked to the first one, friends and family, you already, and then, you have to, just like with normal investors, it's probably a good idea. You have to do a pitch, and you have to sort of say, so this is, why you should invest in me. And I back the business so much that I'd be comfortable taking money from my friends. So then you're right. Okay, that is great. But next step, if you wanted to talk to angel investors, that's actually a little bit harder. So there is angel networks in most capital cities, and the Melbourne one is quite strong. So you can go to a pitch and you can present your business there, and these people will then decide if they invest in you or not, and then have a conversation with you after. For me, it was I'm fairly. I know a few people through connections, and they have advised me on what to do. I learned a lot about what to say in a pitch deck, etc. And so essentially what has happened is that people said, so this is probably how you want to position yourself. So getting into angels is often very good through connections. So in the absence of having connections, I would say go to one of the pitches from the angels. And then, that's a very good start as well. So this is how you can get into it also. The next step is you could go to venture capitalists, and there's lots of venture capitalist firms out there. So you can go there and you can pitch your idea to them directly. Now, this is something very intimidating and extremely intense. It's an intense experience. I've done it. I've applied to a couple of them and went in, and I had no idea what it was going to be like. I thought it was maybe it would be like a business presentation, right? Nothing like it. So your first is your meeting, right? It's not just let's get to know each other. No, there's a meeting, and so I didn't really know that. And you go in and you have to have a very clear idea of what you're saying. You probably have 10 minutes before people get bored. Maybe not even that. And so. But they will ask you very hard questions. They will ask you questions that are all about money and how much you back yourself. And I just recently read an article about why so many women don't attract VC investment, and it's because most of them are way too conservative with their projections. So I call it realistic, but I've seen projections from other people, and I go like, that's never going to happen. And that's just completely off the charts. And but that's sort of what it's like. So if you think you're being a little bit on the safe side, don't be. Like, definitely go out there. This is how much we're going to make. If we get this money, we can totally blow this out of the water. Then this is what you want to say. So don't be conservative. You definitely back yourself a lot. So I think this is probably why. This is what the article said anyway. This is why women often don't attract so much investment, because they're more realistic with their projections. But in investment, it's not the realistic project that excites people. It's more the things that, like, ooh, all of this growth, that's exciting, let's do that.
Yeah. Now, Kim's got a question for you about pitching. She says, when you pitch, is it your elevator pitch and the deal you're hoping to seek? So can you explain a bit about your pitch deck and what you've included in it?
Sure. So in the pitch deck, essentially what you do, your elevator pitch, it's a bit longer than that, but you should have a condensed version of your pitch deck. So your pitch essentially will talk about the problem that you're trying to solve. So it is, for example, my problem statement is traveling with children is really cumbersome. To buy all of this travel equipment, it costs a lot of money. So there's a problem that I'm trying to solve, and the solution is that you can hire locally from a parent for the fraction of the price than what you might have to pay when you buy it outright. So that's the first couple of statements you might make, and then you will talk a little bit about the people. So people, this is really important to understand. People are the biggest thing people invest in. So if your profile needs to be on point. So your experience needs to demonstrate why you're the best person to run this business and why you can make this happen. If you have gaps in your team, you will have to fill that gap. So you have to say, so for example, I'm not fantastic with financials. I need to get a financial person. I have a really good developer. I need to explain the relationship, etc., etc. So all of this sort of stuff is really important for them to know, and they need to understand your commitment to the business. So that is one of the biggest points in the pitch deck. You have to get that right. And then the other thing is that you will have to talk about the market. So you will have to talk about the total available market, the total serviceable market, and the total obtainable market. So that's sort of how it goes. So total available market for me in Australia is 19.5 million people travel each year with children under 4. This is from Statistics Australia. Okay, so I thought, 19.5 million people travel. They could all hire something. That would be amazing. But essentially, they won't all hire because only 30% of them fly. So, all right. So if they only 30% of them fly, how much lower is my market, and how much am I likely to take off this market? So that's your serviceable market, saying, okay, so you bring it down to, how much could you reach, and then how much are you going to reach, because you have market share. There's other people. You have to talk about the competition. So you have to talk about who else will take your market share. So you go, right. So for me, the biggest thing is maybe higher places, friends and family, take your own and buy cheap. So you essentially then go, right, if I want to take out $20 strollers from Kmart, how am I going to do that? And I mean, that's actually a big thing that I like, just as a side point. I really don't want so much waste to landfills. That's another big reason why I started Tree Hut Village, because I'd rather not have our landfills clogged up with so much stuff. And if you buy premium and you can earn money from it and everybody has a better experience, I like that. So sorry, it's just a side tangent. But and then essentially you talk about that, and then you talk about financial projections. You talk about how much money you've made, how much money you're going to make, and how much money you will bring in when you break even in 5 years' time, where your position is. If your business is not in a multi-million dollars, a VC is not for you. So it's not, VCs are unlikely to invest in anything that is not making multi-million dollars a year. So with projections. So I mean, I think that's also really important to understand where's the best bet to go to, because I feel like the other thing that is super important to understand is it's about the valuation of your business as well. So how much is your business worth? And that's really hard to understand, really hard to understand how much your business is worth. And that's something you come up with and you have to then defend, essentially. You have to say, so this is how much it's worth and this is why. And if people believe you, then you're winning. And if they don't, then you have to back it up stronger. Yeah, so that's a bit what it's like. And this will determine how much equity you have to give away for whatever money. So if you say I value my business at $5 million or something like that, then essentially they go, okay, 10% equity, gives you X amount, like 500,000 or whatever. And then you go, fine, I'm comfortable with that, or I'm not comfortable with that. Also know that if you give away equity, 50% is what you want to retain to have a controlling stake in your business. Otherwise, it's not your business anymore. So I think it's important to understand 51% is the cutoff. If you have given 49% away, you have a very strong board. Let's just have it like that. And I think then the other thing about investment in general is that, so we just talked about giving away equity, and I've also looked into accelerators and stuff like that. So accelerators are business incubators, essentially, where you do like 3 months or 4 months, you apply for them, and then you give away usually anywhere between 8 and 15% of your business in exchange for connections and in exchange for some money, but usually not huge amounts, usually like 50 to 80 grand. And so then you have to decide if this is right for you. I decided against that. For me, it was, but I think if we had early stage investment, and we could have probably grown quicker. So it's a very individual decision. These things are a big sort of thing, and you have to have a lawyer. You have to have a lawyer to set all of these agreements up for you. So this is not something you should do at home, and it's expensive. So this sort of stuff is not arbitrary. You talk about controlling shares, you talk about employee shares, you talk about options. All of this sort of stuff is something that well worth looking into, but definitely something that can be quite intimidating. So I found it very intimidating in the beginning, but you sort of, research a little bit, and then you research some more, and you talk to a lot of people, and you go, oh, so this is how this actually works. So you learn a lot. The main thing is that I just learned a lot. So your pitch deck needs to be extremely concise. So all of this information needs to be extremely condensed to a very short presentation. Pitch decks can take a long time to make because of that, because you feel like you don't do it justice, but I haven't told you everything. That's not the point. You just need to spark their interest, and then they will ask you. So that's the biggest piece of advice for a pitch deck. Complete information is not necessary. They just need to know enough to be interested. Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah.
Fantastic. Lots of great information. Thank you. And as part of the awards and conference this year, we're actually holding a pitch night where the Accelerate students from the Women's Business School, and Eva, you are one of our Accelerate students, will be pitching to the audience and telling us about their businesses. So I'm looking forward to hearing your pitch live. So it's exciting.
I'm already nervous. Yeah, I'm really nervous. Better get started.
Now, I do have another question for you just while we're talking about investors and venture capital and all of that. And you were talking about, when you've been in to meet the venture capitalists and you've given your presentation. Is it a bit like Shark Tank?
Yeah, it is. Just without TV. It is extremely... I have one benefit. In my previous jobs, I used to do a lot of business development with senior executives and so on, so with CEOs and so on. So I'm not completely alien to people like that, but I was super intimidated. I walked in and was like, whew, all right. So people can be very, very intimidating. They didn't know what to say and so on. They need to see how you react to things. They look at you to see how you react. So I think the main thing is it's not just about your business, it's about you. So and then people say, don't take it personally. But you go, it's hard not to take it personally. But I think the thing is that I just want to say you've learned from this experience. You know how to better position yourself in the future when you have another meeting like that. It is literally like dating. Your first date, it was probably a disaster. But the second one is better. You go like, I understand how this works, the little dance. And so you go, I get it. But of these sort of firms out there, but it is a bit like, and one thing I forgot to say is that they're also quite interested in who you're partnering with. So who supports you at the moment. So for example, we're partnering with Airtasker now. So this is a really big deal for us. So it means that Airtasker helps us deliver the items. So if you can't make it, you can do it via Airtasker. And so that's fantastic for us. So this is the first thing. And then we're also partnering with St. Kilda Mums, a charity that rehomes baby equipment. So we encourage our users to donate their items if they're done with hiring and out for family in need to get it. So I'm really passionate about that. I've seen the warehouse. It's so good. But again, a little tangent. Very important to understand who can help you on your journey. So, and how you best position it, who works with you. They're interested in that to see who's interested in you, essentially. So, and I think it's also really important to understand that investors do not necessarily understand your business or your industry. So it's like telling somebody that knows nothing about it in 5 minutes what it's all about. Again, only spark interest. Don't give them full information. That's not what it's about. So it's not a Wikipedia page. So that's really important, I think. And but yeah, it can feel like Shark Tank, totally. So you have to, it's almost as quick as well. The meetings can take 5-10 minutes and that's it. And they will tell you why they're not doing it. So, I mean, in the very beginning, I just went, I'm out. Okay, good. So why? Like, well, it's probably not big enough, probably not going to work, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I was so deflated after some of these meetings. Like, well, stuff you. No, but you get a little bit upset. And then, so it's not on them, obviously. It's just, I think what I now understand is their risk appetite wasn't quite as high as what they felt and perceived the business to be, right? So if it's early days, you just have to understand that while you see the vision, you have to communicate it extremely well for somebody to buy into it, because that's what it is. They're buying into it and they're giving money away. So, and they might not see that money ever again. So they need to be very comfortable with the amount of risk that they're taking on. And so I think, that's what I know about it now. And so it depends, where you are in your journey and if this is already right for you or not. And I think that's a big thing to also know when investment is important. when is the right time for you. So I feel like for us it's the right time very soon, but it wasn't up until now. For me it wasn't, because I felt like the business needed to prove its concept a little bit better before it went down this path, and so that I could attract reasonable investment, because everybody buys into artificial intelligence right now. But baby equipment, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. So maybe I can put some AI into it, I don't know. But that's the main thing. Yeah, so if you're into artificial intelligence, go for it. Let's throw it at you. Yeah.
Wow, it sounds like you've been on a really steep learning curve with all of that. Yeah, learned so much about business.
Definitely. I think the last, I actually said the last sort of year and a half, I have learned so much about what it is like to be a startup, a female startup, what it's like to be, without investment, bootstrapping and so on, what it's like to sort of try to get your voice heard and so on. It's been incredible. So the investment part for me is something very important, and I learned a lot about that as well. And ultimately, I think people are interested in you if you're interesting enough from a money point of view. But I think this whole how much money you need to make for them, that intimidated me a lot. I must say. So because I don't like breaking promises. So I go, if I promise you I make you 5 times your investment in 5 years, I will deliver that. So yeah. I just felt like I had to wait until I was comfortable enough to make that happen, So, because I don't like wasting people's money. So I just go, look, I understand. So if this is your ask, I will do it, but I need to wait a little bit for that. Because right now I'm uncomfortable to say that I can give you 5 times, 10 times the money. So, yeah, I just don't, as wasting people's money, I need to make sure it's happening.
Yeah. Well, it's a big responsibility.
Yeah, I completely feel that. Money doesn't come easy. So I also say, when people say, but they're so rich, I was like, they work really, really hard for all that money to come in. So I think, well done them, and let's not waste it. So
yeah. Now, I'm going to finish up shortly, but if you've got any questions for Eva, please let us know, or comments. And I see we've got Christina here. Hi, Christina. Christina's watching from the US, so it's wonderful to have you tuning in, Christina.
Hi, Christina.
And Eva, before we finish up, I would love to hear just like your final piece of advice for somebody who's got an idea, so who wants to do something that's a bit different, that's a bit out there, that no one else is really doing. What would your advice be for them?
So biggest piece of advice, because I've talked to a lot of lovely ladies recently, because I like giving back as well. So I go, look, if you have a question, just email me, honestly, because you find me on Tree Hut Village, the website, because you can definitely just send me a message with your question. I've been approached by a few people, and I love to have a chat and love to help. The main thing that I found is that know exactly how you're going to make money from this if it's a business that you're starting. I know this sounds weird, but it's people have a great idea, and then they say, well, it would be amazing service. And it's like, it is an amazing service, but is this a charity or is it a business? If it's a business, you need to know how you're going to make money, and this is the first thing you need to understand, so that you can build your business around it. And then the next biggest piece of advice, and this is huge because big businesses get that very wrong as well, write a brief. Understand exactly what you want from your suppliers. Write it down. Be very clear about it, and then get them to give you a reverse brief. Tell them that they should essentially relay their understanding of what you ask from them. If you're spending 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000, know exactly what it is. And also be prepared. Sometimes people will tell you they can do things. And for example, people might have told you that you can run something like Tree Hut Village on WordPress. it's not possible. So it's not strong enough. So it's not built for that. And so if somebody says that to you, just understand what sort of investment you might have to make. If you read your brief through and you go, is this going to work? Yes or no? Then just make that call. I think it's really important, because this is where everybody falls down, big and small businesses. I've worked with corporates in the past, and the lack of an understanding from both parties have derailed millions of dollar projects. So I would say communication is the biggest piece of advice I could give any business. It doesn't matter how big you are. It's huge.
Fantastic. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. That's great advice. And thank you so much for being our guest today. It's been wonderful chatting with you and hearing all about your journey with Tree Hut Village. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for you, Eva. It's really exciting what you've created.
Oh, thanks so much, Peace. I loved having a chat. I really, really do. So, and that's not, obviously I love talking to Peace and everybody else, but if you want to know something about starting a business, or you want to just, bounce it, definitely send me an email or give me a call or something, because I really encourage people to give it a go, because it's hard, but it's totally worth it. So anything, if you want to sort of say, oh, what sort of expectation do I have to have, and so on, I can tell you that. So I feel like I've been there. I would love to share.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you. And you'll also have the chance to meet Eva if you come along to the Osmompreneur Awards and Conference happening in August in Melbourne too. And we've got 2 more weeks before nominations close. So if you've been thinking about nominating, or you have nominated and you haven't got your entry in yet, you've got 2 more weeks left to do that. We close on Friday, the 30th of June. So we'll wrap up now. And thank you again, Eva. It's been so lovely chatting with you. And have a great day, everyone. If you're watching on the replay and you've got questions for Eva, please just post them in the comments below and tag us, and we will get Eva to answer those questions for you. Okay, thanks, everyone. Have a great day. And we'll be back Thursday next week at 10 a.m. Bye.
Thanks so much for having me. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Eva.